Hi, it's Howard Jackson back again. I just wanted to complete last week's section when I talked about leaders and how difficult they find it to deliver on their strategy and their vision. I covered the top 5 as I see them, and sort of sharing my experiences of many years in leadership roles and in education. So the last section I sort of covered 1 to 5, which basically, the goals are not clear. So we've got these objectives, the goals are not very clear, the goals are not compelling enough for people to actually buy into it and deliver on it. I talked about too many goals. Do we try and do too many things? And of course we don't do any of them very well. The plan is vague, so they were just a brainstorm of ideas, and it's too vague and nothing that you can really nail your hat on to deliver. And I talk about people not really engaged in the process, and how critical that was to get people engaged, and on the basis that, as I mentioned last time, nobody delivers at their very best when trying to deliver somebody else's objective. So those are the sort of things I taught you. So what I'd like to do is just continue that and finish off my top 10 of why I believe leaders are not able to deliver their strategies. So number 6 I put is the cultural implications are overlooked often. And the question I ask is, do projects more often fail because of technical reasons or because of cultural reasons? From research, an overwhelming majority of senior managers identify cultural reasons. Similarly, there is more time and energy devoted to planning the technical implication of strategies than the cultural. So, I'll say to leadership team on a regular basis, neglecting the cultural implications unwittingly sort of undermines any plans, technical plans that you've got, even if they're sound. So you've got to carefully align the processes and your strategy and structures and systems with the people, with the engagement and the things that impact and enable people is important. So the cultural implications of ensuring that your strategy works is critical. Number 7, then, progress isn't measured or managed. And basically, have you ever noticed how plans placed in the spotlight flourish while those left in the dark tend to sort of shrivel? So basically, any plan worth executing is worth tracking. Monthly meetings, a tight agenda can quickly determine what actions have been taken, what progress has been made, who's doing what, by when, what are the desired outcomes, are we all the time catching up with that, make sure we're on track, and so on. And the thing that does, that builds commitment, accountability and confidence in the process. And I talked quite a bit last time about that sometimes there's so many initiatives going on that people just ignore them and think, well, we'll just ignore that, forget about it, because there'll be another initiative comes along next week, and so they don't really commit to it. So progress, measuring the progress, who's going to do what, by when, what the desired outcomes are, and so on is critical. The plan lacks flexibility. Often we see very good strategic plans that are not being implemented very well, and there's no flexibility built into those plans. So you've got to be able to reserve the right to do what makes sense, to adapt things. Plans are based on assumptions. They can change over time. They can be out of date. You see things better. It's never a case of we've done a U-turn on that strategy. No, we've recalibrated what we were thinking, and we now think there's a better way of doing it. So you're constantly looking at reviewing it. You don't decide on a strategy day 1 and 6 months down the track you're exactly keeping on that strategy, yet things have changed massively over the 6 months that would have been impacted on that strategy and the results you're going to get. So you're constantly reviewing it. You have built in that ability to be flexible, and so you're an agile organisation that can continually adjust the plans to meet your requirements as they stand right at this current moment. So number 9 is always a tricky one, but I talk to a lot of these about this, is you lack the right people. Some of those very nice people who work for you may not be the right people to get the job done. And sometimes that statement sort of makes people feel uncomfortable, really. But if you're truly committed to winning as a leader, however you define it really, then at some point you have to take a long, hard, honest look at the capabilities of your people, point them in the right direction, support them clearly, develop them, give them a fair chance to succeed. All those things that make great leaders, dealing with people. But if they can't get it done, then sometimes it's your responsibility as a leader to get the people that can do it. And I know I learned very early, I suppose, in my career that sometimes you have to make tough decisions, and clearly people are involved in those decisions. And you think, oh, it's awful. Because in education in general, we're really nice people, aren't we? So, I don't want to do it. I don't want to make that tough decision. People think I'm horrible and whatever. But when you do make the decision and somebody has to go because they're just not good enough, then you have people queuing at your door saying, what took you so long? We've been carrying that individual for a term, for 2 terms, for 3 years, for whatever the period of time, and you haven't shown true leadership and made the decision. And what I always tried to focus on is, if we replace that individual with somebody outstanding, what difference would that make to the school? And what difference would that make to what we're trying to deliver to our pupils? And that's my focus. So sometimes making those tough decisions because you identify that maybe you lack the right people to make it happen. And then sort of finally, really, if things don't go right, and do you treat failure with sort of indifference or an inquisition? Your response to failure as a leader sends a clear message about commitment to winning, really. So just as importantly, it sends a message out about your credibility. Do you ignore a failed initiative and move on to the next thing, which conveys that you weren't that committed or serious about it anyway in the first place? Or do you first look at the mirror, take responsibility, publicly commit to getting it right, effectively engage your people to make it happen? And your choice in those sort of decisions speaks volumes about who you are as a leader. So those are the top 10. Next week I'm going to cover more topics on leadership, but hope you will have found that useful, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks very much for listening. Bye.